So hello everyone, thank you for coming today. So my name, as Isabel introduced me, my name is Julien Agues and I am associate teacher in UTokyo since 10 years now and passionate with play and game education, learning and teaching with game, board game especially. And so that's a great pleasure to have three guests like Haydee, Silva, David Sauvignon, his wife also, and Sebastien Dubreil out there, who are always using game also in their classroom, and there are a lot of good conversation all together. And so today we will have two presentations, one by Haydee Silva and one by Sebastien Dubreil, and tomorrow two workshops, one with David Sauvignon and one with Haydee Silva. So I will just the schedule. So today we are here, so I don't have to tell you the time, but this afternoon it will begin at 1:25, the same place every time, until 4:25, and tomorrow morning we will begin at 10:15 until 12, and the afternoon with Haydee from 1:25 to 4:45. Okay, so let me first introduce our three guests, and for me that's really a real pleasure to have them. Just present Haydee Silva. The first time we met was last year during the symposium in Besançon in France, where I could be because of the GFD money. So that was really a big help to me to participate in lots of conferences like Isabel said. So thanks to the GFD. So Haydee, that's 20 years of the story, beginning by a male. She is teaching in Mexico and Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, international expert in language, didactic, philosophy, and philosophy of play. Sebastien Dubreil, of there. No, c'est pas le bon. Sebastien Dubreil, of there. So he is teaching in US in Carnegie Mellon University and is a specialist in technology and enhanced language learning, playful immersive experiences for language and culture education. And David Sauvignon here, French language instructor at Sorbonne Abu Dhabi, Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi, and research interests include students' success factors and methods for developing intercultural skills. He's accredited intercultural trainer for IBM, Lego Serious Play Education, facilitator, and a member of the Theatre Europe Association, but I think he will give you more detail tomorrow during his workshop. So first, I will let, just a word before to let Haydee begin her presentation. Just to remind you that we got a questionnaire, but there will be only one questionnaire for the 2 days. So just answer it once, please. Okay, thank you so much. So Haydee, please.
Good morning. It's a real pleasure and a real honor to be here today. I want to thank the University of Tokyo and the faculty, Julien Agues, of course, Isabel, Morai-san, and every one of you for being here. I have been working on play and game education from 30 years now, I think. And there is a topic that had acquired more and more importance now. It's about neurosciences. Neurosciences are allowing to confirm or to invalidate some hypotheses about play and game and learning that I want to discuss with you and to give you some general overview about play and game in education, not only in children education, that's a very explored topic, but in the university classroom. I apply play every day in my classroom as an university teacher, and I am convinced that it works. But now neurosciences are giving me more arguments in that sense. So today I want to begin with an overview about the notion of play, because when we talk about play and games, sometimes some people think that we are talking about the same thing always, and that's not the case. So I want to explore with you how the notion of play has evolved over the time, and trying to understand the past of this notion, and at the first of all, the present of this notion, because it's now something that we want to use, but we have to use it by knowing it very well. Then I will discuss very quickly some recent advances in neuroscience that help us to understand how it can help us in the classroom, and I will finish with some recommendation for the classroom use. So, for the notion of play, when we talk about play and games in the classroom, there is three things I think it's very important to know. The notion of play is not something that designs a phenomenon, like in philosophy, the phenomenalistic, I don't know, like Wittgenstein and Gadamer and everything. It's not something that exists by itself. Play and game are social constructs. The things we call play and we call game have evolved over time, not the things, but the notion we have about these things. So that's the first main idea, and I will discuss it further. The second idea, I think it's necessary to understand the notion of play, is that the notion of play works as a metaphor. I will explain more further also, but Wittgenstein developed that very well. And at the end, I will explain the four major levels of reference of this notion. When we are talking about play and game, in fact, it's very interesting to discuss it from a plurilingual view, because we can see that a play and game, juego, jeu, gami, in Japanese. Yesterday, I was looking for a game in Japanese, and we discovered that there is gami or something like that for some kinds of games in Japanese. So when we discuss this topic in different languages, we discover that the word is not exactly the same. In French, we can say un jeu de clés, a game of keys. A set of keys is called a game of keys, or a play of keys. But in English, it doesn't work. In Spanish, we can say un juego de vajilla. But in French, I don't think we can say un jeu de vaisselle. So it's a set, but a set of keys. It's a game of keys, but a set of dishes is not no more a juego or a jeu. And then we have un jeu de mots, and it can be a word play, but not always. And in French, you have a very, very famous play, theater play, Le jeu de l'amour et du hasard, the play of love and, how do you say, hasard? And chance. And in Spanish, it doesn't work. So we have a lot of things we call jeu in French that are not exactly the same in Spanish, neither in English. In fact, if we see that in a graphic like this, in English, you have two words for designing the same thing that French and Spanish make together. Juego, all that, jeu, meaning play, and in English, you have game and play. And in English, you have gameplay and set. And in Spanish, juego is gameplay and set. The same, the three ideas with one word. But in English and in French, you can play a piece of theater, play. But in Spanish, you can play in a play, a theater play. You have to act. the actors act. They doesn't play in Spanish. Or in French and in English, you can play a violin, you can play music. Nor in Spanish, you can't do that. It's in Spanish, you touch the music. You are touching the piano, you are touching the violin, you can play an instrument. So as you can see, even with the words, when we are talking about play and game, we aren't talking about the same thing every time. So in education, I will explore that from the language teaching and learning area. This is my field, but it's more or less the same thing for every educational field. An author called Jean-Antoine Carvola said that play was used for teaching languages 50 centuries ago. It's between the Persians and the Arameans. It's really old, and unfortunately, he didn't say exactly how. I was checking that. It's something I want to find. And one day I found a conference for an English specialist that was telling that in these times, 50 centuries ago, they have tablet de cire. How do you say tablet de cire? Wax tablets. They used tablets, but wax tablets, and you can play with the wax tablets, and then when you finish, you warm the tablet, and it became a new one again. So that's something we have to explore further. But play and games are present in education, in language education, from very long time ago. Our conception, our notion of play and game, it's very marked by Aristotle, the Greek philosopher. He was the first who wrote really a really long text about play and game. And our idea of play and game is very influenced by Aristotle. Aristotle said that play is something that the gods and the kids can do, but not the women. We will discuss that after that. And we have an idea, very strong idea about play and work. Play is not work, and it's not true. That's not true. But Aristotle said that, and everyone thinks he's right. In 1988, it was the final cup, the football cup in France, and France won the cup. And one journal, one newspaper, has a big title. For Barthez was the, how to say, le gardien? The goalkeeper, the France goalkeeper. For Barthez, football is a play. And it was the big news because Barthez, his work is to play, but he keeps the mind, the set mind for playing and game. So that's interesting. I will discuss it more later. So all from Aristotle to now, we keep all this model, and in the Renaissance, there were a lot of authors who explore play and game, but with ancient Greeks philosophy. You have someone here knows Vittorino da Feltre, even Sebastien or you? Vittorino da Feltre, you know Vittorino. May you explain who he is? Vittorino da Feltre, he is considered as the father of physical education, sports. And Vittorino da Feltre bet on physical and intellectual education. And he created a school called La Giocosa. Giocosa means joyful and playful. And in this school, the main thing was that every student has to study very intellectual matters, but to cultivate her health, the body health. So they make a lot of sports, and for the first time they were learning modern languages at Vitorino da Feltre's school. So he thinks that play was very important, but he thinks about it like Aristotle. That's the Jocos. And then we have another other expert. I don't know if you know Monsieur de Valange. Did you hear about Monsieur de Valange? Monsieur de Valange, it's not fair because it was a really good pedagogue. And in the 18th century, he explored the potential of play and game in the language classroom. And he has a book, a really interesting book called Comment enseigner le latin aux enfants en les divertissant et sans qu'ils s'en aperçoivent. How to teach Latin to children by let them having fun and without being conscious of it. It's a very long title, but it says that it says. He was using game for that. And these illustrations are about Monsieur de Valange, because Monsieur de Valange has some proposals like digital grammar. And the digital grammar was not technological grammar. It was about giving each finger a function in grammar and revising grammar with hands. And he proposed some techniques that everyone ignored at this time. It was too advanced for its time. But later, Maria Montessori proposed the same thing, and everyone says, oh, Maria Montessori, it's a very new idea, but it was there 2 centuries before. For example, he proposed to use sand to write letters and to shape the sand to have a new surface to write. And he also said that if you don't have sand, you can use ashes, or you can use broken eggs, les coquilles, eggshells, and you can practice writing with children like that. And you have, I really think we have to rediscover pedagogy and everything, every field, the role of women in these fields. And there is a woman, a very important woman, it's Félicité de Genlis. Félicité de Genlis has a very novelistic life. Herself, it's like a character, a novel character. Monsieur de Valange, Vitorino da Feltre, Madame Félicité de Genlis. Does someone hear before about Félicité de Genlis? Madame de Genlis was a really important author. It is the first French woman who lived from the money of her books, and he published dozens of books about pedagogy, and she was the mistress of the Duc d'Orléans. The Duc d'Orléans was the uncle of the King of France. And the Duc d'Orléans asked Madame de Genlis to teach everything to the future King of France. And Madame de Genlis was convinced that plurilingualism was really important, and she found a lot of ways to promote language learning with play and games. And she invited the future king and his siblings to play in English. She asked from poor nobles, the noble pauvre, and she made a casting, and she found some children, very noble children, but poor children in England, and she brought them to France in order to play games with the king and to help the king learning English and things like that. So Madame
was also a spy for Napoleon.
Yes, and she has a really interesting life because she was a spy, and she was the mistress of the Duc d'Orléans, but the Duc d'Orléans was already married. So in order to keep her near, the Duc d'Orléans married Félicité de Genlis to someone, the Marquis de Genlis, and then sent the Marquis of Genlis very far. And Félicité de Genlis was the governess of the Duc d'Orléans children and the King of France. It's a really interesting life of Félicité de Genlis. But she bet on play and game in education too. And then after them, there was a lot of French and English and Italian people who developed active approaches in the 18th century for with the print letters and making things with your hands and things like that. And it was really interesting to see that, in fact, when in 2011 the word gamification became very frequent and everyone was doing gamification. As a play and games specialist, I was, it's not something new. It exists really for a long time ago. So this notion, it's really ancient and it's ambivalent. As I was telling you, for Aristotle, the play is something that children can do, and gods, because gods have no obligations. And men can play if they are taking a rest from the work. You having worked very hard, now you have the right to play. But women don't do anything hard, for Aristotle. So women don't need to play and they don't have the right to play. So Aristotle said, play is right, playing is right after working. If you don't work, you don't have the right to play. And if you are a god, you have any right you want. And as I was telling you, the notion of play now is trendy. You can find a play and ludic and gameful and things like that everywhere. And sometimes when you're with promotional speech, they say, "Oh, a new mall is open in the town, and it's a very playful mall." And as a specialist, a very playful mall. What it means? Oh, there's a lot of restaurants. That's a playful mall. But game, play, ludic, gamification is something everyone uses, but you don't really know how, what it means, what they are looking for. In education, the problem is that the use of play and games is often reductive. Play and games aren't used as a part of the education process, the learning process, but they use three paradigms. Why not? But it's not enough. It's a pity to don't use play and game in the full potential. The first classical paradigm, the main paradigm, is broccoli with chocolate. There is a very difficult topic. There is something that I know students hate, well, I will propose it with some game, some play, in order to let them feel better, in order to make the experience less difficult. So play is not used as with all the affordance of the potential of play. It's only just for hiding the hard part of learning. It's broccoli with chocolate. In French, is la pilule dorée. It's making something hard a little bit easier by giving it a funny side. The other usual paradigm is play as a reward. Well, you have worked well. I know you're tired. Now we can have 5 minutes of play. If you work very well and if you learn all your verbs, at the end we will have a game. It's like the carrot too. And the third and last one is the cover-up. I prepared my lesson. I want to explain something very difficult, and then it happened to me. I have prepared anything, and I arrived to my classroom, and it was no energy. And I have my computer and my video projector and everything, and it was no energy. So what can I do? I can play. So it's there is something unexpected. Well, we can play. The problem of these three paradigms, I think they are useful, and if you are doing that, it's great. But the problem is you aren't using play and game in the full potential of that. You are using it just as a complement, as something else, something more, but you aren't using really the efforts of play and games. So in order to use play and game in the classroom, I think the first thing we have to do is to problematize the play and game notion. When I was preparing this conference, I was searching for the translation to problematiser. And it's funny because in English, it's less frequent than in French. Problematized, it means not seeing play and game as an answer. And the problem with play and games in education is that historically, play and games have been answers to something, but play and game have not been studied as objects of reflection, and they haven't been problematized. So it means before using play and games, take the time to ask why I want to use it, what I am waiting for, what I will apply, what I will take off. Being conscious is like everyone else in the classroom. I don't apply anything because it's just like that. Sometimes maybe, but we have to be conscious about the goals and how we want to use a new tool. So with the play and games, it's exactly the same. I feel that in English, there is maybe Sebastien will help me with that, but I feel that in English, there is a lot of reflection about play and games, but not in the problematization. Is play and games are there, and then how we can use it. I think French experts have had thought more about what it means, why we want to use it, not only how, but why we use it. So you have here some names, some very classical names. If you have been interested by the topic, even for a few months, you know Roger Caillois, Les Jeux et les Hommes. It's one of the first main books about play and games. You have Huizinga, the first one, the really first one, Huizinga from Netherlands, Homo Ludens. Johann Huizinga was the first to say that play is part of culture experience, and that playing is a human experience. The thing that distinguishes a human being from animals for Huizinga was play is not really true, because others have discovered that monkeys play, cats play, dogs, and things like that. Even dolphins, how do you say, baleine? Whales. Recent discoveries tends to show that animals play, but Huizinga was the first one who really studies play for itself. And then Roger Caillois was the first one to propose a typology, a classification of different types of play and games. It's funny because Roger Caillois is a French author in the middle of the 20th century. He was a close friend of André Breton, the surrealist author. And I really like surrealist movement, even if I don't really like Breton. And I don't like Roger Caillois, and I don't like his book. And why? Because it's interesting, it's useful, but at some point, Caillois distinguishes 4 kinds of play and games. He said that there is imitation games, like theater, vertigo games, like in the ferry or the attraction parks, imitation, vertigo, chance games, like dices, and competition games, like the Olympics. Until this point, okay. But at some point, if you want to check the book, he says, in fact, imitation and competition games are civilized games, advanced games. And chance games and alea games and vertigo games are less civilized games. That's the reason for French people likes horses races, and Cuban people likes dominoes, because they are less civilized than French. When I read this part of the book, it's the time of the author. It was 80 years ago, more or less. But you can see that every author is inscribed in his time, and Caillois was very colonialist and very Eurocentric in his speech. But you have French discourse. You have also Jean Piaget, who talk about periods of learning and play. And you have English authors like McGonigal or the Tarding, and I had to add Jonathan Reinhardt. He has a very recent book about play and game in the language learning, and it's a very good one. And if you are interested by play and game in education for children, you have to discover Brugère, Gilles Brugère. He has a book called Jouer, Apprendre, and it's very interesting. I think it's one of the best books about this topic. And my recommendation is to read Jacques Henriot. Jacques Henriot, it's a philosopher, he's not a pedagogue, but he was one of the first that don't use play and game as answers, but really try to find what we are meaning with play and game. And from Henriot and Roger, I come to the second main idea. The notion of play is a metaphor. Why it's a metaphor? Because the things we are calling play or games, we are doing that because we are comparing that to other things. In fact, when we use play and game as words, we are referring to something else close to the thing of play and game, but there is no one thing we are calling play and game. And in fact, we are using metaphors. And this idea comes from Wittgenstein in the Tractatus Philosophicus, because Wittgenstein proposes that languages works with analogies, and we always refer to something new by analogy with another thing we know better than this second thing. And from this idea, the metaphor of play and game refers to four levels, to four meaning levels. When you are talking about play and or game, in French, jeu, in Spanish, juego, you are referring to four levels: the materials, the structures, the context, and the attitude. So the first level is the play materials. It answers the question, what do we play with? And it refers to the specific objects that we use to play. As you can see, I don't think it's a good idea to play it like that because it's too hard. But if you have read Alice in Wonderland, Alice plays hockey with un flamand, comment dire, a flamingo. And it's there is also an Indian movie where checkers plays when it's a war and the checkers board is lost. They go to the garden and they play with fruits and vegetables because you can play with anything. So tomorrow I will show you, for example. I have that very often in my. I am tracing something and then, and you can change the atmosphere of your classroom with a simple accessory. You have this, and I really like this one because it's a cultural object. This is a Québécois spoons, and you have like music with this wood spoons. So play materials are really important because they can change the perception of the activity. And I think you don't have your egg. He has an egg who make a little noise. It's really, really amazing. So if you arrive in the classroom, I know that the students, what happened? I made a big travel. I can't take all my stuff. I have a lot of stuff.
We want to contest.
Yeah. Sometimes I have a, how do you say, a serre-tête?
Oh, yeah.
A hairband with a dinosaur. So I arrived to my methodology class with my hairband with a dinosaur. And when the students see me, they know that something will be happen. I have two scepter, a magical scepter, and with light and noise and that. So when I arrive and you to the board, you can use material to make funny things. But if I use this funny in order to say, how's your name? Fin. Fin, what's the capital of Mexico?
It's the city.
What's the capital of Guatemala? What's the capital of Colombia? Well, the first time it's funny, but if it's always the same thing, it it changed anything. It's funny to do that or to do that, but if you use it only for asking things and say yes, no, the first time it works, the next one, again. So the material, it's very useful, but it's not enough. The second level of reference is the game structures. The game structures said what we are playing. It's a set of organized systems of provision of rules that govern the playing activity. As you can see here, the child is in a hopscotch mat, but she isn't playing hopscotch. She's making a maze, and there is the dog here. So you have rules, and she's not following the rules of the hopscotch. The rules are really important because you can have some material and play something else, completely else, by changing the rules. With a chess king, of course I can play chess, but I also can play football. Not a good idea, but I can play football, or I can make it like une poupée, a doll, or I can play a play role with the chess pieces, or I can do a lot of things with the chess material. So the game structures are very important, and as teachers, it's very important to have a large variety of structures because it allows us to offer different experiences and to understand how it works. Maybe later we can discuss it in more detail, but it's very important, and Julien knows it very well because he has a lot of games here and board games, but any board game can't be played as it is in the classroom. So if you understand how the structures, how the rules are working, you can say, well, in this play, in this game, we can play like that. We can play individually, we can play by teams. I can give more time, less time. I can choose the letters in the Scrabble. I can pick out some letters that are difficult, or I can multiplicate the vowels, or I can, if you understand how the game works, you can adapt it, it's easier to adapt it to your needs. The third level, it's the context. It's very, very important. And as you can say, university context is not the best one for playing. Right now, you are in the very classical disposition. You are looking to this side. We have all the tables. We don't have place to play. And the students aren't thinking, I am going to play. They think, I am going to work. And in French is c'est la faute à Aristotle. It's Aristotle's fault. They think they can't play at the university. If they are playing, they are not learning. It's not true. But sometimes you have to fight against this notion. So the context is the conditions in which we are playing. It's all the extrinsic clues like sociocultural variables. I think about Northern Africa, for example, and even in the USA, people can touch the other very easily. If I touch something that I don't know really well, it's perceived as an aggression, as an invasion of my intimacy. So you have to take in account these sociocultural variables. I think in Japan, it's my first time in Japan. I don't know Japan very well, but I was surprised by all the play roles and the how do you say the cosplay. The cosplay is really present in Japan, and in Mexico is completely different. So, and in Cuba, they really like dominoes. Roger Caillois was right about that. So all the sociocultural variables and the situation, because at the university, for example, my career is French literature license. We work only at the evening. We began our classes at 1 o'clock, and we can begin at 9 o'clock. And very often I have the students at 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, they haven't eaten, they are hungry, they are tired of all the morning, they still have to be strong to 9 o'clock. So they arrive to my classroom like that. And I have to take that in account in the play proposal, because, or we have a classroom where it's too sunny and it's too hot. And if I ask them to move a lot, it's too difficult, or the class is too tiny, or in the next classroom there is someone who needs silence, and we are making noise and things like that. So the reception situation is very important, and the classification of the game, because, for example, teenagers adores chance games and card games, and they don't like children games. If you propose something very childish to teenagers, I'm not a child anymore. And teachers often think that, oh no, I am working with students, adult students, I can't play. I have played with 40 years old, 50 years old people. They don't have the opportunity to play very often. Children can play anywhere at any time, but adult people don't have the opportunity of playing very often. So if you propose something fun and you propose something joyful, and you show that it works for learning, they really appreciate it, because they don't have this occasion very often. And the last, but not the least, is the playful attitude. That's in our working, in our teaching working, the playful attitude, it's our goal, because I will explain it in a few minutes. All the benefits associated to play and game in education are related to the playful attitude. What's the playful attitude? Is the thing that makes that we think we are playing. Maybe the activity we are proposing is not a game or a play. It doesn't matter. As teachers, as university teachers, or as teachers in general, our work is not to have fun or to make students play. Our goal is to make students learn. And if we want to reach this learning, we have to promote the playful attitude. The playful attitude have been conceptualized by the positive psychology, and it's I don't know if Sebastien knows the spelling of this author, Michael. Csikszentmihalyi Mihaly, oui, yes. Csikszentmihalyi, it's an author who has developed the concept of flow, the optimal experience. The concept of flow doesn't apply only to play. In positive psychology, the flow is this state of mind where you are involved, you are fully involved, you are taking all your resources, all your knowledge, all your human being involved, but you are able to take a state backwards, take a step and say, is something happening here? Well, it's interesting, and you have you can study your own behavior, and you activate metacognition. You are able to being there and looking at it from the outside and saying, I did it right. Oh, I did that. That it doesn't work. Maybe next time I have to do that. So if you are able to create the playful attitude, you are very probably promoting the learning with your students. So some general tips for getting the most out of play and game in the classroom. From material, equip yourself with varied, attractive, robust, versatile material. Julien is a good student of mine, and he followed my example. I have in my house a lot of accessories like that or that. I have a Sigmund Freud's puppet, and I arrived with Sigmund Freud in my pocket. And when we are discussing something, I forget. Today I have a friend. You know him, Sig, for the very close friends. Sig speaks French, but Sig don't like when people don't pronounce well. So if you hear Sig make that means if your pronunciation wasn't the best, and if he made that it means we don't understand you. So I have Sigmund Freud telling the students if their pronunciation is good or not. It's really silly, but making Sigmund Freud correct the pronunciation and not me, it changes anything. Because they know that there's a game. It's not no more correction. Oh, you can't speak well. I explained it 1,000 of times, and you aren't able to understand. It's silly, and silly. And all the group is not me. The group will say, there was something, and the group corrects and the group discuss. And so this puppet is very useful. You can use that, as you can see here. And tomorrow I will show you some material. For example, I have my thread. I have some buttons very shiny. I have a lot of dices, letter dices and things like that. So the material is important. And tomorrow we will play with a game I printed. And tomorrow I will discuss how it works. But I used plastic bags in order to keep my game safe and to be able to use it. So look for all this material, try to find interesting material, and the students will be very happy to manipulate it. And if you lost one card, if you lost one piece, you may be able to replace it very easily. And that's for the material. For the structures, I propose to identify different rules, if possible original, because students like to discover things, diverse, because not everyone likes to play the same games. Sometimes it's a very observation game, memory game, speed game. You need different kinds of rules. Simple, because you don't have hours to explain a rule, so make it simple. Structure, because it helps to keep the activity going. Effective, of course. Preferably, but not necessarily fun, because, as I said, our work is not to have fun with students, but to promote learning. And easy to adapt, because if you know it very well and you are able to adapt it, you can, in a few seconds, adapt something that is going wrong and keep the activity going well. In the context, obviously, you have to create a context of respect and trust, because students need to feel right in the classroom, and to feel invited to express themselves and to be really themselves. It's stimulating, it encourages participation, and it fosters creativity. So try to give a good atmosphere in the classroom. And at the end, as I said, encourage a playful attitude. This attitude of deep involvement with a critical distance, with the ability of metacognition. Well, neuroscience have confirmed a lot of things about play and game. I now try to explain how we can optimize the use of play and games with the support of neuroscience. The neuroscience is now giving us a lot of new answers, and the neurodidactics, the neuropedagogics, it's in the intersection of psychology, education, neuroscience, play and game studies, and different disciplines, languages, but history, mathematics, or any discipline you teach. The recent findings tells us that playing may involve three cognitive functions, the main cognitive function. The playing in the classroom allows the students to engage their knowledge. I know something, but also their skills. I can do something, but may not. The main thing is attitude. I want to do that. It's all the circuit of motivation, and this motivation is based on hormonal process, the DAS process. D for desire. If you want to do something, you have a dopamine shoot, and with dopamine you have focus. You can concentrate your attention. It helps for memory, and it gives the activity meaningfulness. So dopamine, it's really important in order to create the desire to be active. But if I want to do something and nothing happens, it doesn't work. I have to be guided to an action, and when I am in action, I generate adrenaline. Adrenaline gives me energy and engagement. The adrenaline in the right moment helped me to go search something that it's hard, it requires effort, but it helps me to do that. And very important, after that, you need satisfaction. You need to create serotonin. Because if you have an experience, or like someone who runs a marathon, if you only have the tiredness, and you are tired and you have no medal, and you don't reach the goal, and no one congratulates you and think, you won't run again. But if you have your medal, if everyone, oh, you run on that, oh, you're really good. The effort, it's have a recompense. There is serotonin, so I want to start again because it works. So now with play and games in the classroom, it's easier to activate this process of desire, action, and satisfaction. Because play and game allows us to reinforce the four pillars of learning from neuroscience is capture and hold attentions. As you know, our brain is stimulated by a lot of things, and the first function of our brain is to select information. And our brain tells us there was a noise. Oh, it's not very important noise. I don't pay attention. But if you can't catch the attention, the brain of your student is looking for another thing to work. So if you need to capture and hold attention, and then invite students to be active and to provide feedback, and by allowing them to predict, to get feedback, adjust, and make a new prediction. Donc, keeping your students active, and then reinforce all this circuit. I have almost finished because I want to let some minutes to discuss. So some practical recommendation for successful classroom use. The first one, I think anyone in this room will be okay with that, but it's not the traditional point of view. You have to foster positive emotions. Our brain, I compare it like a maniac mom. Our brain selects, separates, decides, and our brain says, this teacher humiliated me yesterday. From now, my brain is close to this teacher. So you can say whatever you want. The brain says, this source is not a very good source. And it closed the door. So you have to promote positive emotions, because the brain, this teacher, when I am in the French classroom, I feel well, I feel confident, I feel that even if I make mistakes, it doesn't matter. I feel that my teacher, my classmates are kind. I am open to learning. So if you create a positive emotion climate in the classroom, you are making one step to the learning. It doesn't warrant the learning, but it helps. It helps a lot. This is not the best setting. You have to create a space that encourages the activation of mirror neurons. If I am looking at the others, if I am tiring, it's boring, the others are paying attention, my brain says, do you see them? They are paying attention, but maybe there is something that is interesting that is happening. I have to pay attention too. Oh, they are happy. Oh, maybe there's something that made me happy too, and I can pay attention there. So the mirror neurons are really interesting in classroom. The Goldman's diverse intelligence are now classified as neuromyth. There is not really different kinds of intelligence. That's the neuroscience said. But there is different paths in order to reach the brain. And these paths are from senses. And if your brain receives the information visually, and you listen in it, and you are writing it, and you are using your body, the brain says, oh, it seems important. Maybe I have to keep this information because it's arriving by different paths. So try to diversify the channels of neural activations, and it helps people to not only to memorize better, but also to classify the information as meaningful and as necessary. It's very important to prioritize the higher order cognitive functions and metacognition. So not only memorize and understand, neither apply, but to create, to evaluate, to analyze, to invite people to make things with the learning, the learning material, in order to activate the brain. And the brain, as I say, magnetic mom, oh, I have to work hard for that. It's important, I keep it. Oh, this draw, oh, it took 2 minutes to the garbage. So it's very important to make our brain understand that this thing we are learning is important, it's complex, and it's worth the effort. We can do that, and if you propose know-how, not only knowledge task, but know how make things in a very specific context. When I was a teenager, I had a French teacher who brought an exercise based on how an airplane works, an airplane motor works for teenagers who weren't very interested by airplanes and motors. Working 2 hours about how a motor works, it has no meaning. So I remember now this time because I was telling, what's that? What? I don't remember what was the subject he was teaching us. I remember it wasn't meaningful. So we don't want that. It's very important to think about evaluation too, because in order to reach satisfaction and to reach metacognition, it's important to be able to evaluate ourselves. But how I can evaluate myself if I don't have clear objectives, if I don't know what I am supposed to learn? So it's very important to share goals, learning goals, and to propose peer evaluation procedures, self-evaluation, in order to make the learning meaningful too. All this kind of work help us promote storage in working memory and then in long-term memory, because our mom brain says, oh, okay, this, I don't know, this short, okay, I will keep it maybe for the next summer. 3 summers later, oh, I don't use this short from 3 years now. Lunch. Our brain selects, I don't know how to say in English, élagage. When you cut the trimming. Our brain is trimming all the time. It's a very maniatic and feng shui mom, and she likes to have the house organized. So our brain don't keep information that is not worthwhile. So you have to make it worth in order to keep it. So try to do it with why it's related with play and game, because it helps to say, I studied this grammar structure when I win this thing, when I discuss with these people, when I met this friend, when I learn this thing. By giving new experiences with play and games, we are helping to store the memory in the long-term memory. And of course, it's not enough to keep it. You have to review it and recall it and use it again and again. So it was, in French, it was l'approche spiralaire, like that. And you have to do that. You have to use the things you have learned. If not, your brain says, not useful, forget it. So at the end, some pedagogical tips for getting the most out of play and game in the classroom. And as you can understand, I am not talking just about primary school classroom. It works for every audience. You have to assign specific objects. You have to have clear goals and integrate the activity into the learning experience. It's not a cover-up, it's not a reward, it's not a chocolate. It's something that it's part of the experience of learning. Your goal is to activate the DAS process, desire, action, satisfaction. It allows you to draw attention, to engage, to provide feedback, and to reinforce. And so you have to bet on positive emotion, multisensory experience, higher mental functions, and metacognition. With that in mind, play can help in the language and cultural classroom to propose procedural tasks in context, taking into account the cultures involved, not only the target culture, thank you, but the cultures, all the cultures involved. You have to adopt a perspective that not ignore cultural aspects or assume their universality. Here, I have to do a parenthesis. French language teaching is not like English language teaching, nor Italian, Spanish, Japanese language teaching. In French language teaching, culture and civilization has had a big role. And in English teaching, English language teaching, culture has been separated because we have all to speak Globish. If you speak English, it doesn't matter the culture. I think we have to navigate between the two poles, not too much culture, civilization, the Eiffel Tower and things like that only, neither the English position, culture doesn't matter. No, culture matter, but culture is more than civilization. Choose and apply a plurilingual and pluricultural perspective, take in account the ludic culture of your students, what kind of play and game they like, they know. You can make them discover new things, but also take profit of the things they already know, and take the learner's culture as a starting point in order to promote memorable and meaningful experience. So now it's your turn. I thank you. You have my email. I have a lot of text in French, mainly, some in Spanish, in academia, and I will be happy to hear your comments, your examples, your questions. Your turn.